What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're continuing our PostgreSQL series, and in this lesson, we are looking at case statements. Now, case statements are kind of like if-else statements. If you've ever done any type of programming language or even done things in Excel where you have some type of condition, and if that condition is met, then something happens. If it is not met, something else happens. Let's look at this in a really simple example. So right here, we start our code. We are going to specify a condition, and if it is true, then we'll do this body of code. If it is false, we'll do this body of code. And we also have an else statement, and we'll look at that as well. But it just depends on whether the condition is true or not. And that is case statements. It evaluates the statement, determines if it's true or false, and then does something with it. And then we finish our code, and that's it. We can have multiple conditions need to be evaluated at the same time. So in essence, this is quite simple, but it gets a little bit more advanced as we go. And so we'll start with the really simple stuff, and you'll pick it up right away. I know you will. And then I'll show you a little bit more of the advanced stuff. And I think by the end of this, you're going to be nailing case statements. You're going to want to go and start writing it in all your code because it is really helpful. Now, if you haven't already, we are working with our Star Wars dataset. I will have it right over here. You can get that down below in the description. You just download it, run the SQL, and you will have our 3 tables or 4 tables now. Since the last lesson, we added another one, and you'll be able to follow along with us. But here we have all of our Star Wars characters, and we're going to take this from kind of a human perspective. They're either human or they're not, right? They're human or they're aliens. They're some type of Wookiee, weird looking thing. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Chewbacca. But what we want to do is we want to kind of categorize these people. And all we're going to want is the character name. And then we want the species, and then we're going to do this case statement. So I'm going to come right here. I'm going to say case, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to say when. So this is the syntax that we're using. We're using this case when, and when then. And we'll look at that in just a second. So we're going to say when the species is equal to human, we're going to say then they're normal. And I'm actually going to use, I just like single ticks better. And then we're going to come here and we're just going to say else, and all the other ones are aliens. And that's all we're going to say. Case, when, and else. And that's it. So we're saying case, when the species is equal to human, then they're normal. If they're not, then they're aliens. Now we have to end this by literally saying end, and then we're going to label this. So we're going to say as, we'll call this species identifier. If I can spell that, identifier. I nailed it. All right, let's go ahead and run this. Now when we come down here, we have our character name, we have our species. So human is normal, human is normal, human is normal. Wookiee, aliens. I probably should say alien, actually. That just makes more sense. So we have normal and alien. So whenever it's unknown, droid, Zabrak, Gungan, it doesn't matter. If it's not human, it's normal. This is essentially any if-else statement in any other tool, any other programming language, anything. It's just slightly different syntax for SQL. So we're using case. When this condition right here is true, then it's normal. If it's false, it goes to the next line, which is just alien. Everything else is alien. And then we end it. And that's it. That is the simplest example. Now, let's come down here and let's put this here. We're going to change this up a little bit, and we're going to make this a little bit more useful. And let's pull this. I'm just going to show this to you. So we'll select everything from character info. I should be having some semicolons around here just so we can see it. But we have over here this estimated net worth, and I do things like this often with case statements, where I want to kind of bucket these people into different categories. Maybe they're ultra wealthy. Maybe they're wealthy, or maybe they're poor. Maybe we want to say low income to not be rude to the droids because they're very important. They just don't have much money. But we can put these in buckets. And bucketing is really useful with case statements. In fact, I would use it with things like birth dates. You can bucket people into certain categories of age ranges if you want to do that. But I'm going to demonstrate it with this estimated net worth. So let's get rid of all of this. We're going to do case when, and we want the estimated net and worth. And we're also going to put this right up here because I want it in my output. So when the estimated net worth, and let's provide our condition, we're going to say is greater than or equal to. Now we need to specify a value. What is it going to be for this first value? Now, this really matters because when we have multiple conditions, it's going to perform this in the order in which you write it. I'll demonstrate that in a little bit, how you might mess it up. But let's say anyone worth more than $100,000. If they're worth more than $100,000, then we're going to label them. I'm just going to call them the ultra wealthy. I mean, these people are rolling in dough. But let's add another bucket. So now we're going to take this exact same format. But now if they have more than $10,000, we're just going to say they're middle class. How about that? Middle class. And let's add a little space here. And then anyone else, so we're going to say else, they are just low income. Now we need to end this. So we're going to say end, and we'll say as wealth underscore class. Now let's go ahead and run this, and let's see what we get in our output. So we have Luke Skywalker. He makes $150,000. He's ultra wealthy. So we got a lot of ultra wealthy people here. Now, Yoda, he's a very altruistic person. He's not making all the money, or at least keeping it. He's middle class. And then we have our droids here, poor guys. They are both low income. Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, they're both ultra wealthy. And then Jar Jar Binks, low income. Again, I think this is from like the first time he was introduced. Once he becomes like a war hero general, he's very wealthy. So this must be from when he was like first introduced. Anyways, that's not important. Now this output is perfect, but the order of operations actually matters a lot because what happens is it says case. If this condition is true right here, then we stop. It isn't going to go to the next one or the next one. It's just going to stop at this first one. So let's just, for the sake of things, let's change this around. Let's put this right here. So now we're saying when the estimated net worth is greater than 10,000, they're going to be middle class. Let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Now you'll notice that nobody is ultra wealthy, or at least they don't get assigned. So we're incorrectly assigning people because what's happening is it's saying, is their net worth greater than 10,000? If yes, then they're middle class. So even though Luke Skywalker makes 150,000, it never reaches this point because this is going to happen every single time that this is true. So the order in which you place things is really important. And as it gets more advanced, you may have multiple conditions that need to be met. And so you want to make sure that you're aligning these in the proper order. You don't want those to be mixed up. So this one, to me, looks really good. Now let's copy this down below and let's run this query one more time. Now let's look at an example of using multiple conditions because sometimes it is as simple as just one condition needing to be met, but maybe you want to include other conditions in each of your when-then statements. So let's get rid of all of this. You'll notice down here we have species of humans and this odd column that has both arms. And it is unfortunate, but there are many characters in Star Wars that just don't have both arms. Luke Skywalker doesn't, Darth Vader doesn't, Darth Maul. A lot of them in the later movies have robotic arms because they got them chopped off because they were just wielding lightsabers and fighting each other across the universe. And that's a problem. And so what we want to do is we want to label whether these humans are fully functional or they are enhanced. For example, Darth Vader, yes, he lost his arm and got a robotic arm with that, and that's great. But he lost a lot of his midichlorians, and he wasn't as powerful as a Jedi, but robotically, I mean, that's a pretty big advancement. But he wasn't fully functional. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come right here, and we're going to do the character name, and now we're going to choose species, comma, has both arms. And now we'll do two conditions. So we want the species to be equal to human, and case sensitive. We want it to be able to human and has both arms is going to be equal to yes. If they have both arms, we're going to say then they are fully functional. And let's get rid of that. Then we're going to say when And we're going to basically copy this whole thing. The species is humans and have both arms is equal to no. We're going to say that they are, let's just call them damaged. I don't know if that's the right term. There we go. Damaged. And then we'll say else. And instead of a string, we're just going to put null. And let me actually put that in all caps. So we're going to say end as human evaluation. Now let's go ahead and run this. Let's look at our output. So if Luke Skywalker is both a human and he has no for both arms, he is damaged. But Leia, she's a human and she has yes for both arms, so she's fully functional. Yoda is not a human. These droids are not human, so they're just going to have null in their output. So we can have multiple conditions being met in order to get some type of output. Now we're going to look at two more things, and these are just, things that I think are really useful. Now, let's come copy this estimated net worth because we're going to use that column again. And we'll run this query just so we have it up and about. Now, so far, when we've run this estimated net worth, we say then, and we've just done a string. That's all we've done. But we don't have to do that. In fact, we can perform calculations in this then. For example, let's say this is a specific range of net worth, and we're figuring out the taxes. So let's come over here. We're going to say taxes. This is how much taxes they owe. What we can do is we're going to say estimated net worth, but we're going to perform a calculation. We're going to say estimated net worth times, and we can specify how much taxes on their net worth that they need to pay. For example, these people are the ultra wealthy. They're going to pay 50% in taxes. But then people who make $10,000 or less, they're just going to have to pay 10%. And low income, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get rid of this. Those people who are low income are going to pay 0.05%. So now let's run this. And now we'll see, here's how much they're worth, and here's how much they owe in taxes. And so we're able to perform these calculations for different groups. So you'll see Luke Skywalker, he's a high net individual. He's paying 50%, that's $75,000. But if we look at R2-D2, poor R2-D2, he's only going to pay 5% in taxes. That's $100 or whatever currency R2-D2 uses. And then we have Yoda. He's our middle income. That's $50,000. And he's going to pay 10%, which is $5,000. And so we're able to perform calculations based off of these conditions being met as well. I've used this for a ton of different scenarios. I think that one's really useful. And the last thing that I want to show you is something maybe you haven't seen before, but I've used it before and I think it's pretty neat. Let's actually go and just get this base query here. Now, what most people use this for is exactly what we just did. They'll do it in the select statement, and that's perfectly fine. But you don't have to only use it in the select statement. We can actually use it in something like an order by. Let's just say, for example, we wanted to order on the species. And let me spell this right. And I'll just do alphabetical. So let's run this. And so we have droid, Gungan, human, unknown, Wookiees, and Zabrak. That's in alphabetical order, but maybe I don't want that. Maybe I actually want the humans to come first. Maybe they're the most important one in whatever we're doing. So let's use a case statement here in order to specify this. So we're going to say order by, and we'll say case. And let's say when the species is equal to human, and then we're going to do something, and we're going to use a number here, which is 1. Now, in the order by, if you took my order by lesson, you can order by multiple columns. So you can have the first column, then the second column, then the third one. We're just assigning where this is placed. And so we're saying this is the first one that we want. And so then we can come here and we say when, maybe our next one that we want to look at is the droids. When the species is droid, and I think I need to capitalize that, then it's 2. And then for everyone else, we don't really care. We're just going to say 3. And then we'll end this. Let's go ahead and run this. So now we have humans that are first, then we have the droids, and then it looks like it's actually in random order because the unknown is coming after the W, but we don't care. We didn't specify that. in this. Otherwise, we would have. We could specify all of them if we wanted to. So that is case statements in a nutshell. We're evaluating a condition or conditions, and then we're doing something with that. If it evaluates true or it evaluates to false. That's what case statements are. They are really useful, and I hope that you're able to learn in this lesson how to use them. Be sure to just mess around with them, try different things out, and see what you can do with it, because that's how you learn. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next lesson.